Hello, this is Nicki Keohohou, CEO and co-founder of the Direct Selling World Alliance. I want to welcome you to the Alliance Executive Forum for executives in the direct selling profession. I'm here today with Anthony McIntosh, president and founder of SSE Advisors.
Well, hello, Nikki, and thanks for having me. I truly appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself as well as SSE Advisors to the DSWA family, and I'm glad to be part of the DSWA network.
Hmm. So what is SSE Advisors?
Well, Nikki, I am glad you asked. SSE Advisors is a strategic business advisory and consulting firm focused on helping our clients build and sustain success. Now, as you can see, I emphasize both build and sustain because they both are equally important. You need to know how to build success, and once you have it, how to sustain it. I have seen many companies experience success only to have it slip away. You have to remember that situations are always changing, markets are always evolving, and when you build for sustainable success, you are prepared to handle both. No matter what you're doing, you have to do it in a manner that is sustainable. Why? Because we all are in this for the long haul.
The long haul is true. So how did you come up with the name and why success, not the word growth?
Well, interesting that you asked that, Nikki, because I get that question quite a bit, right? So let's start with sustainable success. Those two were easy because one, I knew that I want to truly focus on sustainability because sometimes I see it being overlooked for short-term and transactional gains and usually forgotten during a hyper growth period. And why is this? Because growth is so intoxicating and can easily mask future issues and challenges. I have seen this time and time again, and I always come back to my saying, if you can't sustain your business, you will not have a business for long. Now, when I look at success, I think it's bigger than just growth. In my opinion, growth is just one way to measure success, and we should also consider other things like maybe your vision and how that could help you define what success looks like for your organization in the future. Now, yes, Nikki.
I know you're just moving right along here. And I think what's exciting is for people to understand in this profession, it's not just about building it. As you say, it's about maintaining it. And sometimes companies get to this full blast, they're doing great, and then they don't know how to sustain it because other things happen. So I'm really glad you're addressing this.
Yeah, and to your point, Nikki, it is all about that. How do you sustain it? And that's why I say, the sustainable success, those two came easy for me. That's what I really wanted to focus on. The embodied piece was really interesting for me because I was looking for a word that meant to bring something to life, make it tangible. And actually, when I came to the word embodied, that was actually a suggestion by my wife. And the more I thought about it, the more it worked for me. I wanted to move sustainable success beyond a concept into something people could actually visualize. And when you think about SSC, it is all about making sustainable success tangible and achievable.
Mm, I hear your passion and what you're talking about here, Anthony, and how much you love this profession. Just tell us for a minute, why do you do what you do?
Well, I do what I do because I have a passion around strengthening and leveraging the expertise of my clients. So, what does that mean? When I look at my clients, I see that my clients have a level of expertise that I want to bring out and elevate. And where they may be lacking, I can help provide and build. And by doing this, I help increase my clients' overall business acumen and, more importantly, help them better position themselves to truly build sustainable success. Because at the end of the day, when I leave my clients, that expertise needs to stay in house.
So true. And it's sometimes it's kind of the opposite. The people that come in and work with a business, they want them to need them so bad that they keep them forever on a retainer. And your job, it sounds to me, is that you're looking for them to grow and go and be able to maintain that on their own. And that's really to be commendable.
No,
So,
and to your point, it is important because, like I say, in order for them to sustain it, they have to, and it has to absorb it as we go through that process. So it is important for me that I leave that knowledge and expertise when I leave.
beautiful. So when you work with clients or start conversations with people, what do you tell them about sustainable success?
Well, I usually start by addressing the three things that I think people need to know about sustainable success. Number one, you need to define success beyond the metrics. Now, metrics are very important, not going to say that they're not, but you have to remember that they are only a measure of outcome. And my focus is truly looking at what drives the desired outcome. So let's just take a quick look at the two graphs that I'm showing here. Graph number one depicts that success as it relates to outcome. Let's just say that's a percent of growth year over year. That's what graph number one tells you. Graph number two, on the other hand, depicts putting things in place to reach the desired success. I mean, just look at that graph. Look at people putting together those puzzle pieces, trying to make sure that they're building something to help them reach success. And it's all about those pieces being put in the right place to attain that success, because if that bridge isn't sustainable, neither is success. So the first thing that I talk about is define success and really beyond the metrics element. Now, the second piece is know your business and organization. And yes, I say those two things differently because you should think about those differently. Knowing your business determines what you need to and or should do, and it incorporates internal and external information floating out there. Now, take a look at that graph number one. Now, I know it says business plan, but it really helps depict those key elements for understanding your business. Things like SWOT analysis, product, marketing plans, financial. All of these things are important for understanding your business and what needs to be done. Now, as it relates to knowing your organization, this looks at your ability and capabilities of being able to do what you need to do, as we defined in knowing your business. Think about your talent, think about the structure, think about processes. These are the things that are in place to help you accomplish what you need to do. Now, when you put these two things together, it helps you establish what your priorities are, which leads me to my next point: focus and patience. Now, I've met a lot of people, and I know some people struggle with the focus, some people struggle with the patience, but it's really important as you think about creating that sustainable success. Focus goes back to truly understanding your priorities and setting them for the organization. Patience, yeah, I know a lot of people out there, and people say patience is a virtue, and a lot of people have challenges with reaching that virtue. But think of patience as the ability to allow the priorities you have put into place to take hold. Now, there are a couple of things that I want to point out as it relates to patience. The first thing, if new information comes out and requires you to change priorities, please do. You have to be flexible and adapt when necessary. And more importantly, avoid tinkering. Tinkering is a big issue that I've seen with some of the companies that I've worked with. It's disruptive and frustrating to your organization and can actually reduce the sense of urgency across the organization. Why is this, you may ask? Because when people expect change, they are not usually in a hurry to execute on things. In their minds, there's no need to put any significant effort on something that will change later. Remember, I said patience is a virtue, so you have to let things take hold for not only for your ability to sustain success, but also for your organization. They need it. So, quick recap. One, define success beyond those metrics. Two, know your business and organization. That'll tell you what you should be doing as well as how you can do it. And three, focus and patience. Establish those priorities and then stick to them.
I've just got to add that focus and patience piece because I meet so many people that are impatient running these companies expecting miracles in 2 weeks or less. So it is true. Focus, pick your things you're going to go with, because when you have so many, the word change going on in an organization, people feel like they're chasing 100 rabbits. So I totally agree. All three of those were very good. So how
Well,
do the
it's easy. It's easy because I can get clients to do the first two, and I find out that usually they'll struggle with that last one.
oh,
That
I can
focus and patience is something that a lot of people struggle with.
Oh, I agree. So how do the SSE advisors work with clients?
Well, the way that I like to have us, start our conversations, and I'm going to put up, this quick chart, and what I do is I call this my sustainable success value continuum. Now, I know that's a mouthful, so why don't we just call it SSVC for short? So this is going to be the long part of, my presentation. So just bear with me for a little while because I think it's to me it's exciting. And I think it's an interesting that we have here. So the SSVC is an overarching strategic framework that truly helps my clients understand what drives the business and, more importantly, ensures sustainability by focusing on three areas, what I call create value, connect value, and capture value. And when I talk about these three things, I'm talking across all of your stakeholders, not just your customers, not just your sales field, but your employees and other channels that you may have. So think about, your business around create, connect, and capture across all of your stakeholders. So let's talk a little bit about each one and what does it actually mean. So let's hit create value first. Of course, create value is exploring the value that you create, both real and perceived, for all of your stakeholders. In other words, why people come to you. Companies should always monitor the value being created because, as I mentioned earlier, markets will change, and without value creation, you have no business. The second point is around connecting value. Now, this looks at your ability to connect the value that you have created with the desires, needs, or wants of all of your stakeholders. Now, this is where I've seen many companies fall short. For an example, think about it this way. If your value is focused on an experience and you spend most of your efforts and time talking about product features, you're probably not connecting your created value with your stakeholders. And especially if you start thinking about going after new stakeholders, how you connect is extremely important, and it may be different than how you are currently connecting with your current stakeholders. So think about that from a connect value perspective. And finally, you have the capture value element. Now, this gets into revenue, profitabilities, things like employee retentions. Now we're talking about some of those metrics. This is what we typically and how we identify with capturing value. And that piece is really important because the more value you capture, the more you have to invest in your business. So I'll give you an example, and I will use Apple. And I use Apple because I have a significant amount of experience, dealing with Apple as it relates to being a competitor of Apple in one of my previous lives. So when you think about Apple and you think about them creating value, I always tell people that from my personal opinion, and it's proven out, Apple creates value around its experience and brand and gets people to associate with that Apple ecosystem. It then does an extremely great job of connecting that value. The bottom line is Apple makes people want Apple products. I mean, the brand is cool, The experience is connected. Most people don't just have one Apple product. And at the end of the day, how many brands can say that they have lines of people standing outside of different retail shops waiting for their product? And their ability to capture value is probably, at the top of the list compared to other companies that I've looked at, because at the end of the day, you never see Apple's products being discounted. I mean, walk into a Best Buy or any type of retail shop, you will see brand X sitting next to an Apple product. Brand X has somewhat better features, but however, it is at a cheaper value than Apple. And at the end of the day, most people will most likely walk out with the Apple product. So, with all that being said, at the end of the day, when you think about, that create, connect, and capture, you have to think about it as one. Because if one isn't working, none of it's working. You're not optimizing either one of these elements, and they all need to be working in harmony for sustainable success.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's my recap. I know it's a little long, but you asked me the question of how do we start the conversation, and I think it's important to start with that element of getting people to think about their business and their strategies from a different perspective.
So true. So Anthony, you have this framework that you've created, and it was very clear that you follow that and you understand and know the direct selling profession. So what types of services do you offer around that?
Well, with those services, with that framework, we offer three core services. Now, and the first one is really around business diagnostic. Now, the business diagnostic, I can look at it from an individual area perspective, but it's best when you look at it from a whole, looking at that business as a whole, because it's not just about finding one silver bullet, because that silver bullet usually doesn't exist. So what is it that we're offering with our business diagnostic? A couple of things. One, it evaluates the efficiency and effectiveness of key business areas. Now, we've created a tool and a process that explores different areas such as your strategy, your profitability, sales, marketing, just to name a few. And we take that to help create an understanding of your current state of those key business areas, because you need to understand where you are in order to define where you need to go. And the last thing that it also helps you understand is it delivers clarity on where to focus your efforts and resources.
So I know that you talk a lot about education and the importance of education. Why education versus training?
Well, I like to call it education because I think education extends beyond the traditional training. So just take a quick look at the graph that I have there. What I've tried to capture or grab is an image that depicts what all goes in education. And as you can see, training is a piece of it, but there's more. There's behavioral elements. There's attitudinal elements. I mean, these are additional things that when you start thinking about building people professionally and personally, you have to think beyond just specific trainings. I mean, think about it this way. Think about the fact that everyone goes to school for an education, not training. Education usually helps people develop and handle various scenarios and situations, while training sometimes is usually on a specific skill. So, I mean, we train people how to drive. And I think it's very important in terms of how do you think about education and training, because as I think about the education curriculum and what we have, what it allows us to do is, to my point I said earlier, extend beyond their traditional training. It's a way for us to help our clients develop their field or develop people professionally and personally through behavioral and attitudinal changes. And it also really develops a highly motivated, engaged, and more importantly, an informed audience. For an example, your sales force.
So tell us a little bit more about, you know, as you work with people and you develop them, you know, what about the advisory sessions? How does that work?
So advisory sessions, we really put them in place to help us do a couple of things. That the first thing is it helps us provide flexibility, for our clients, because not all issues require a project. And advisory sessions are just enough clients to gain access to some of the things that we do, from our framework to some additional services, but it just really helps provide that access to SSC. It allows us also to facilitate critical thinking around specific businesses and challenges, because at the end of the day, one more brain doesn't hurt. This could help. Uh, we offer partnerships and guidance to help examine issues and reach resolutions. So the bottom line is, when we think about these sessions, these sessions can be tailored to meet our client's situation as well as their needs. So let me just do a quick recap for you. We've got the business diagnostics, and the business diagnostic is there to help you understand your current situation in order to determine where you need to go and what you need to do. The education curriculum goes beyond your traditional training and truly develops that audience professionally and personally, so that they can handle different situations and different scenarios. Advisory sessions provides flexibility for client interaction between our client and SSE. And at the end of the day, I showed you the framework, that SSBC framework, that allows us to look at all of these different services through that lens.
Hmm. So what makes SSE different from other advisory or consulting firms?
So I'm glad you asked, because now I'll just talk a little bit about that SSE difference. The first thing that I like to point out is the fact that we focus on sustainable success. I think is important. I think it's important to look beyond the metrics that I've talked before, but also across the entire organization. I think beyond the metrics across the entire organization gives you a better understanding of how you really think about sustainable success. The second thing I like to point out is our approach and frameworks are simple and interactive, and I'm also may add that they're very good if people ask me. But the more important thing is it enhances the overall business acumen of every client. It's what I talked about at the beginning, strengthening that expertise, positioning my clients to be prepared for any opportunities or any challenges that may occur. The experience. I bring over 25 years in business leadership across different industries, and I think it's important to have some of that cross industry learning, because I think it's immeasurable in terms of other industries have important things for the direct selling industry to learn, as well as direct selling has other important things for other industries to learn. So I think that different industry perspective is important. I've looked at different business sizes as well as functions within an organization. And in addition, we've also developed some key partnerships to help ensure the best quality solutions for our clients. So at the end of the day, it's the fact that we focus on sustainable success. Our approach and frameworks are simple and interactive, and I think the experience that we bring to the table is very valuable and important.
Hmm. Anthony, you've shared a lot about how you can support people in growing their businesses and your experience and your team's experience outside of the direct selling profession, and how that brings additional support and another view. And I've always believed that you can't run your own company in a box. Having a fresh view, a fresh uh, someone to look at it from another perspective is always healthy, because no matter how many years you've been in business and how successful you've been as an entrepreneur and an executive, we all have blind spots. And if we walk around with the blind spots and we don't ever get anybody else to help us see those blind spots, we're kind of walking around in the dark. Not good. So,
No, and I agree, and I think you hit it on the head, Nikki. You talked about that fresh perspective, a different look, but more importantly, helping people with their blind spots. So I think that that's something that we, as you know, we look at what we do. Those are the things that we like to bring to the table.
hmm. So what do you want people to remember about you, Anthony, and the SSE advisors?
So the first thing that I want people to remember is building success is a challenge and sustaining it is an even greater one. And I say that because I want you to think about the things that you have done or are doing to build it, but more importantly, remember that you have to put things in place so that you can sustain it. That is very important. The second piece is, whether you're looking to grow your business, maintain growth recently enjoyed, or reverse a downward trend, you need to ensure that all of your efforts are driving sustainable success. I cannot overemphasize the fact that whatever you're doing, make sure that it is sustainable. Because as I mentioned in the beginning, markets are always evolving. Situations are always changing. You need to make sure that you and your organization are prepared no matter what happens. The third thing I want to just make sure people remember is SSE Advisors is your thought partner in making sustainable success achievable. I say that because we are not only focused on delivering quality solutions, but improving your ability to build and sustain success. The fourth thing that I point out is our client success is our success. We are here for our clients, and that's what we really focus on. And the other thing, Nikki, that I just want to point out is 2017. 2017 is around the corner, and in some instances, it's already here. So as you're thinking about your planning efforts, as you're thinking about what 2017 is going to look like, make sure that you are incorporating those sustainable practices that we've talked about a little here. But at the end of the day, just remember, if you need a little assistance, just give me a call, send me an email, because we're always willing and looking to give people a helping hand. And even if it's just to answer a question, we're always willing to help, Nikki.
Oh, Anthony, thank you so much. Here's what's exciting. Anthony, you've shared some process, some systems, some the way you look at things to give people another idea. Because every time a company goes out of business in direct selling, it hurts all of us. So the more success we have across the board with more companies, the better off we all are. So, Anthony, I want to thank you and your team for the work that you do and for the support that you offer the direct selling profession. Thank you, everyone. Please share this with people on your team, executives on your team, or people that you know are launching a direct selling company and may not even know about DSWA or SSE Advisors at this time. We appreciate your support, wish you all the best, and let's get ready for 2017 and make it our best year ever. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.